This is the story of the man who melted down Britain's biggest gold robbery and walked away laughing, until one quiet afternoon in his own garden, it all ended with 6 silenced gunshots. But what people don't know is how close he came to getting away with everything. Before the nickname, before the millions, before the headlines, there was just John Edward Palmer. Born in 1950 in Solihull, near Birmingham, he grew up poor as one of 7 children. Dyslexic and barely able to read or write, he left school at 15 with almost nothing. He started small, selling paraffin from the back of a lorry, then tiling roofs with his brother. But John Palmer was sharp. By his early 20s, he had already made his first £100,000 through deals in scrap metal and jewellery. He wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy, he was patient, and he was thinking bigger. Then came the crime that changed everything. On the 26th of November 1983, armed robbers stole £26 million worth of gold bars, diamonds and cash from the Brinks mat warehouse near Heathrow. It was Britain's biggest bullion robbery. The gang needed someone who could melt the gold down fast and make it disappear into the legitimate market. They turned to John Palmer. Using a secluded property near Bath, Palmer worked day and night in a makeshift furnace. He melted the stolen gold, mixed it with copper from old 2p coins and other jewellery to disguise its origin and remove the serial numbers. The night sky reportedly glowed red from the heat of the operation. For his central role in processing the Brinks mat gold, he earned the infamous nickname Goldfinger. In 1985, the police closed in. Palmer's business partners were arrested, but he fled to Tenerife with his family. Eventually brought back, he stood trial at the Old Bailey for conspiracy to handle stolen goods. In a moment that became legend, after the jury found him not guilty, John Palmer blew them a kiss. He walked free, and his reputation as the man who got away with Britain's biggest gold heist only grew stronger. With the heat from Brinks mat behind him, Palmer moved on to even bigger scores. He became one of Britain's most successful timeshare fraudsters. Operating mainly from Tenerife and Spain, he sold bogus timeshare apartments and mortgages to thousands of victims across Europe. His scams were estimated to have made him around £30 million from more than 16,000 people. On the surface, he lived like a king. Luxury properties, fast cars, and a lifestyle most could only dream of. Behind the scenes, he ran his operation with cold calculation, always staying one step ahead. But power like that attracts attention. In 2001, he was back at the Old Bailey, this time charged with masterminding one of the largest timeshare frauds ever recorded. He was convicted and sentenced to 8 years in prison. He served around 4 years before release. The courts later ordered him to repay millions, though much of it was never recovered. Even after prison, Palmer continued living large in Essex. He still had enemies, and he still had secrets. Then, on the 24th of June 2015, everything ended. 64-year-old John Palmer was in the garden of his secluded home in South Weald, near Brentwood, Essex. He was burning documents when a professional hitman approached. Palmer was shot 6 times, in the chest, abdomen, arm, elbow, back, and kidneys. The killer used a silenced weapon and vanished without a trace. The murder was so clean that police initially believed he had died from complications after recent gallbladder surgery. It was only during the post-mortem examination 6 days later that the gunshot wounds were discovered. To this day, the murder of John Palmer, Goldfinger, remains officially unsolved. He had made many enemies over the decades. Some say the hit was connected to old Brinks mat grudges. Others point to his timeshare victims or rival criminals. John Palmer's story is one of incredible cunning and a violent full stop. He went from a poor dyslexic kid who could barely read to the man who melted millions in stolen gold and built a fraudulent empire worth tens of millions, only to be gunned down in his own garden while burning papers. Some people still wonder, did he really get away with the Brinks matte gold? And who finally decided that Goldfinger's luck had run out? The file on John Palmer is closed, but the questions remain. If you want more real stories like this, stories that go deeper than the headlines, subscribe now. Because the next one might be even bigger.